Hi, you guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about thyroid nodules and some of the things you can do to really overcome thyroid nodules. The traditional protocol calls for a wait and see approach. And I don't know about you, but I'm not okay with just sitting there, sitting around and waiting for them to disappear and not doing anything about it. So in this segment of the video, we're going to do a book reading. I'm going to be reading chapter 17 on page 210 that talks about what you can do. And if you missed the earlier videos today, there was one that I did in the morning showing you how to do a castor oil with essential oils compress on your neck at the bottom of your thyroid. And then after that, I did a call, which was kind of prompted by my colleague Taylor to talk about my story with Hashimoto, something that I never really thought of doing, but that created a lot of engagement. So we talked about my story with Hashimoto's, how much longer I actually had it than before I realized, what causes autoimmunity, the connection between thyroid and estrogen dominance. And then I also talked about symptoms of low thyroid function, Hashimoto's, as well as hyperthyroidism. And most importantly, what can you do to help yourself? So, and also what you can do to test for those, because that is one of the most underestimated, underdiagnosed, misdiagnosed conditions when it comes to hormonal imbalances is a low thyroid function. You know, women are put on antidepressants when they're depressed without having their thyroid checked. They are put on anti-anxiety medication without having their thyroid checked. They are told to move more, exercise more, and eat less when they put on weight uncontrollably. And all of that can be due to the thyroid condition. So all of that was in the previous video, so I'm not going to be repeating that content. I want to encourage you to watch that. And we've got all the videos for you living in one place. It's called overcomingestrogendominance.com/events. That's when you can find all the videos from the previous days. And we've been doing this since last week. And so every day there was a dedicated day to different conditions. So we've covered breast health, because lumpy breast and fibrocystic breast can also be due to estrogen dominance. Whoops, sorry, somebody forgot, meaning me, forgot to turn on my phone. And then we talked about breast health. We talk about thyroid today. We talked about just the overall, what is estrogen dominance. I think the one thing I didn't do a very good job is explaining why is it that estrogen dominance and thyroid is so often so connected. And, you know, one thing I will say, and how many of you here can relate to this when I say, oftentimes when you have a hormonal imbalance, it's not just one hormonal imbalance that you might be suffering from. There's a likelihood that you're experiencing another one, or maybe yet another one. So what I often see is, for example, thyroid issues really coming up in women postpartum, so after having a baby. And don't forget that giving birth is a huge trauma to the body, as well as emotionally, it can be. And then women who go into perimenopause and menopausal could be another triggering time to develop low thyroid and Hashimoto's disease. And then, you know, and the thing that I often see, so I definitely see that the menopausal and thyroid conditions. I do see a lot of thyroid conditions with estrogen dominance. I see a lot of girls, younger women with PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, high testosterone, high blood sugar levels. They have cysts on the ovaries, infertility, ovulation problems, also having estrogen problems, right? Estrogen dominance problems. So those two are definitely connected. Something that we call adrenal fatigue, also known as HbA dysregulation, that can also be often correlated with a thyroid issue, very often also with estrogen dominance. So you probably are, you know, if you have one, you might be having many. The good news is that, you know, and that's the reason why I wrote this book with the foundation protocol in there. And the foundation protocol rests on a three-legged stool analogy, which is talking about the health of your gut, health of your liver, and blood sugar balance as being really the holding, as the foundation, right, of your good hormonal health. You know, the analogy I want to offer you here is I live in a beautiful mountain house out in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains, and my house is perched on the side of the hill. And when I was about to buy the house, you know, it can be very easy to get sucked into the beauty of the house and the views around it. And but the first thing, you know, I was trying to also be very conscious and conscientious about finding out how strong the foundation is, right? And so I ended up hiring a structural engineer to come and take a look and do an assessment of the foundation, because what does it matter that you have a beautiful house when the foundation is weak and is going to crumble, right? And so your foundation of your immune system, of your endocrine system, meaning your whole hormonal health, really starts in the health of your gut, liver, and blood sugar balance. And in the book, I explain here in the foundation protocol, every one of these has a chapter dedicated to that, explaining what you can do. The good news is, as complicated as it might be, because it is a content-heavy book, the good news is that the way we've designed the recipes and the meal plans for you, they all take care of all these three things together. It's a 28-day estrogen reset foundation protocol. And when you follow the recipes, when you follow the meal plans, it does help with all those three at the same time. So we did all the work of putting all the nutrients in that are necessary, encouraging you to drink to certain teas, and starting off your day with the good morning elixir that I was demonstrating on the first day, how to make it and how to juice it and all that. And having a shot of that and what it does to your body, right? So anyway, so that's where I am. And with the demos, let's dive into the chapter in just a second. I just have a little ask. A couple of things actually. We are gonna do a book giveaway in just a second. So I'm gonna read some things from the book, and then I'm gonna quiz you, and whoever gets the answer right will get a copy of the book. And my team is gonna reach out to you and tell you that you're the winner, or announce it on Facebook. And then the other thing is I was gonna say is we have something very special for you, a gift card. So if you order your book on, we encourage you to order. You can order the book on Amazon if you're in the US. Then go to overcomingestrogendominance.com and the website. So title of the book, and we've got a gift card for you there. So when you enter the receipt number, and then you're gonna get the gift card from us, and I think you're gonna really like the gift card. You appreciate it. There's a lot of things you can do with it. So that's that. And one other little ask I have is, for those of you who got the book and you started reading the book, and you however far you are in the book, can I ask you for help to help us review the book on Amazon? I would so deeply appreciate it. And Taylor is going to post the link to the Amazon where you can review the book. We will so appreciate it, because the more reviews we can gather from the book, the more the book is going to be presented to more people on Amazon who are not part of our community. And really, that is my mission, with my professional and personal mission, is to impact 1 million women over the course of the next 3 years with the book, with the online content that we have. So I would truly, truly appreciate if you could help us by leaving us a review. So thank you for that. If you want to post a picture there too, that's nice too. Just want to do a quick check of something. Okay, yep, that's all good. All right. So so why don't I just dive into the chapter? Then I'm gonna quiz you, and then we can do Q&As. All right. So chapter 17 on thyroid nodules, and who can guess? I'm gonna cover this. Who can guess what this is? What is this yellowish thing in a bowl? And a hint. It's a form of sap. SAP. It's a form of a sap from a tree. Let's see who can. That's not your quiz question yet. It's just like a fun question. Let's see if anybody gets that. All right. This is a topic very close to me, because I discovered 3 thyroid nodules about 9 years ago that have since completely disappeared. So it's completely possible to eliminate them. Even if your thyroid nodules are small and benign, I encourage you to address them. Your doctor may have suggested a wait-and-see approach, but thyroid nodules are not okay. They indicate a hormonal imbalance, such as estrogen dominance, high toxicity, among other damaging issues that need to be addressed for you to function at your best. Thyroid nodules won't go away on their own, and you can make them disappear by implementing the below protocol. Yes, that is correct. That is frankincense. The one in a bowl just now. Key facts. Your thyroid is a small butterfly-shaped endocrine gland located in front of the neck. It produces hormones that regulate your metabolism, including your heart rate and body temperature, along with almost every other bodily process. Every human cell has thyroid hormone receptors, so your entire body, from your brain to your heart, to your immune system and digestive system, requires thyroid hormone to function properly. That's part of the reason why women with low thyroid function, for example, are constipated a lot of the time. And that constipation can be also causing estrogen dominance because you're recycling these estrogens. The thyroid is believed to be a sponge for toxins. This makes it vulnerable to nodules. People, especially women who live near highly polluted and radioactive areas, tend to have a higher incidences of thyroid nodules and cancers. And for those of you who are Eastern European, from like Ukraine, Russia, eastern part of Poland, these countries, these areas have been tremendously impacted by the Chernobyl explosion, and a lot of women till today are having a lot of thyroid issues. A thyroid nodule is a lump in your thyroid gland. It can be a solid growth of thyroid tissue or a cyst filled with fluid. They can develop singly or in clusters, can be benign or malignant, though most of them are non-cancerous. Thyroid nodules are classified according to whether or not they can produce thyroid hormone. Cold nodules do not produce thyroid hormones. Warm nodules act as a normal thyroid cell. Hot nodules overproduce thyroid hormones, causing hyperthyroidism. And we had somebody earlier who was asking, she said ever since she had hyperthyroidism, she was then diagnosed with having thyroid nodules. And so she probably had hot nodules that they were producing that extra thyroid hormones. In some cases, thyroid nodules develop in people with Hashimoto's disease. This autoimmune condition results in an underactive thyroid or hyperthyroidism. Do not ignore thyroid nodules. Even if benign, they are not harmless. They can be an indication of estrogen dominance, which left untreated can lead to lumpy breasts, terrible PMSs, and all the other symptoms of the imbalance, plus more serious concerns such as breast and thyroid cancer. They can also indicate high toxicity in your life coming from food, skincare, cleaning products, air, water, and environment. These issues should not be ignored. Thyroid nodules are your body's way of telling you it's struggling with toxicity. Nodules will not go away on their own, but with the right approach, you can completely dissolve them. Symptoms: enlarged thyroid gland known as a goiter, pain at the back of the neck, difficulty swallowing, difficulty breathing, hoarse voice. By the way, you might have a thyroid nodule, not even know it. And most doctors don't do a sonogram or an ultrasound on the thyroid. And so, that's like something that you can actually, if you have a thyroid condition, you can actually ask for it and insist on getting it done. If you have a hot thyroid nodule producing excess thyroid hormones, you may experience symptoms of hyperthyroidism and overactive thyroid. These include fatigue and muscle weakness, mood swings, nervousness and anxiety, rapid and irregular heartbeat, sweaty palms and excessive sweating, trouble sleeping, weight gain. Let me tell you, that's no fun. I did have hyperthyroidism when I was in my late 20s. I had Graves' disease, most likely. And I was diagnosed with hyperthyroidism, right? But of course, they didn't test for my antibodies, and I didn't know any better. And I can tell you that if I was to choose between being hypo or being hyper, I would choose hypo anytime, because being hyper is just basically you're like on crack. I've never been on crack, but I would imagine that's paranoid, super moody, couldn't sleep at night. When you can't sleep at night, it's like you're tired and you can't sleep. You know that feeling? It's a pretty awful place to be in. Diagnosis. Many thyroid nodules go undetected because they are too small to cause symptoms. A doctor may be able to feel them during a routine physical exam, and they may be discovered under an imaging procedure such as a CT or MRI scan to investigate another health concern. If you suspect a nodule or have thyroid problems, I recommend seeing a doctor and insisting on a physical examination or sonogram. If your doctor suspects a thyroid nodule, they will probably refer you to an endocrinologist, an endocrine specialist who may order the following diagnostic tests: thyroid ultrasound, thyroid CT scan, fine needle aspiration to collect a sample of the nodule, blood test to check your hormone levels. Causes. First cause, not surprising, estrogen dominance, especially excess dirty estrogens, low progesterone, magnesium deficiency, toxicity from food, skincare, cleaning products, and environment. Earlier, I was talking about how when you spray your perfumes, you spray it on your thyroid, especially those. I'm not talking about like nice, clean perfumes made from essential oils. I'm talking about perfumes from like leading international brands. Those are all full of xenoestrogens. And we spray that right at the bottom of our neck, right, to smell nice. And that it can contribute towards nodules. Inflammation caused by diet, food intolerances, alcohol, stress, and toxins, especially dioxin, among many other sources that feed inflammation. Stress, in order to make enough cortisol to support body stress response, pregnenolone is diverted or stolen away from progesterone production to make cortisol. When this happens, you're producing so much cortisol to deal with a stressful situation that you have insufficient progesterone to balance out estrogen. And when you have too much of that kind of estrogen, that estrogen fuels the growth of the tissue of the nodule. Too much coffee and alcohol, not a cause, but it will certainly contribute to the growth of thyroid nodules. Traditional treatments: wait and see if asymptomatic, partial or full thyroidectomy. Okay. I'm sad. So they will basically take a part of your nodule and remove it, right? Part of the lobe or the full lobe and remove it. And full thyroidectomy means the whole thyroid they're gonna remove it. These are most common first-line treatments for thyroid nodules. The problem is that they don't address the root cause of the problem, which is estrogen dominance, inflammation, and high toxicity. So the question is thyroid nodule protocol. What do you do? So what is the protocol, right? So step number 1 is do the 28-day estrogen reset foundation protocol, including the foundational supplements. See part 4 for anything you need to do it successfully. After doing the foundation protocol, you may not even need to implement step 2. But if you feel like you've mastered it and you need to go deeper and address your thyroid nodules, read on. Step 2, implement the thyroid nodule protocol. Implement as much of the following as you can. Some things may help and others would not. Everyone is different and we will respond to changes in varied ways. Lower inflammation. Inflammation is a primary driver of thyroid nodules. An anti-inflammatory diet and supplements that target inflammation, such as those containing curcumin, can help a great deal. Try castor oil packs wrapped around your neck to support liver detoxification, to clear out dirty estrogens and reduce inflammation. If you haven't already tried castor oil packs, now this is a good time to begin. For more on their benefits and how to apply a pack, see page 150. Add essential oils such as essential thyroid support blend for more support. And I was showing you this morning on how to do the pack on the thyroid and what essential oils to use. And I modified the recipe from the book a tiny bit by using, there is a blend that we have right here from my good friend, Dr. Marisa Snyder. And in that blend, she uses frankincense, lavender, chamomile, and rose geranium in that combo. Let's see, what else? So, and then apply essential oils topically. Many women in the hormone balance community have reported that applying essential oils has helped them shrink thyroid nodules and support their thyroid. Frankincense essential oil has anti-inflammatory, immune boosting, and pain relieving properties. Diluted with a carrier oil such as jojoba, sweet almond fraction, coconut oil before applying to the skin over the thyroid, or try the essential oil thyroid supporting blend, which is very similar recipe, but it uses castor oil. And the reason why I'm using castor oil with these essential oils is because castor oil is the deepest penetrating oil. It's going to get through the skin, through the dermis, and it gets into the gland a lot quicker and more effectively than other oils. Implement herbal strategies. Work with a local herbalist to create an herbal formula that focuses on bringing the inflammation down. These herbs might be helpful. Boswellia, curcumin, and white willow bark. You know, hey, you guys, do you know the white willow bark? That's what aspirin comes from. Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much that's what I have on the thyroid nodule protocol. I'm curious here, how many of you have implemented? How many of you here have been diagnosed with thyroid nodules? And if you have hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, I highly recommend for you next time you see a doctor to ask for a sonogram or a CT scan, and just get this looked at. Earlier, I was sharing that when I was talking about my story, that I had thyroid nodules in the past, and when I think about it now, I think they were causing. So I was hyper and hyper at the same time, and I suspect that's what the nodules were contributing towards the hyperthyroidism. And so one of the things that happened was a couple of years ago, as this is a preventative sort of maintenance thing, I went to get a sonogram on my thyroid, and the technician, they're not supposed to discuss issues with you, on your health with you or the results, because somebody else, like a practitioner, a physician, is supposed to interpret the results. But we ended up talking about other things, and we became kind of fast friends when I was on the table. And she says, like, whoa, I've not seen somebody with a history of Hashimoto's to have a healthy thyroid tissue the way you do. And needless to say, all the thyroid nodules were gone, and it's just like a really nice healthy tissue. So, if you listened to our video a few days ago, I did it with Dr. Sean Tassone. One of the things that he said to me, he's like, he said, you are the walking example of somebody who, in spite of all my imperfections and genetic predisposition towards estrogen dominance and whatnot, the way I break down estrogens is pretty good, right? And my Hashimoto's is in remission. My thyroid nodules are gone. And I'm saying this because I want this to be an inspiration for you, that you can completely get rid of your nodules and the worry that it comes with that, going, ooh, is it going to develop into something more serious, right? Nobody wants to have these nodules for years, and then eventually they need to do a biopsy. And a lot of times they can't do a final, they call it inconclusive diagnosis. And I've had so many former clients who had an inconclusive diagnosis. And I think it's more on the physician side. I think it's more of liability thing. It's safer for them to remove the thyroid, so you don't go back later and sue them for if you develop thyroid cancer. And so, and quite frankly, I mean, they make about $12,000 from an insurance company to remove your thyroid versus not removing it. So there is that element too. But anyway, so let's take some questions. Oh, actually, let's do a question first. So let's actually the question is going to be really quite simple. What is the leading cause of thyroid nodules? A recap of the whole talk in 2 words. Okay, well, I'll give you a big tip just now. All right, let's dive into questions and see what's coming in. How do you know that the thyroid is near impeding destruction? Is the level of TPO and TG? It can be, although I mean, I think I will really go by symptoms. You can definitely get, first of all, just looking at the thyroid tissue, the sonogram can really, or the ultrasound can really show a lot. And when I had it done, it was a color one, and she could see very bright pink tissue, and she said it looks really beautiful and healthy and vibrant. So, a thyroid, and I asked her what would a thyroid look at somebody who's had Hashimoto's for a long time and not taking care of herself. And she said that the tissue would then be very scarred, varied texture. Some parts will be very white, others will be very red and inflamed. So I think that could show you probably a lot of things. But the other thing, Alex, I will go with is really the symptoms of, what symptoms a person is displaying. Because I think by the time we get thyroid nodules, we've been struggling typically with low thyroid problems. With the thyroid problems or struggling with estrogen dominance for a long time. So how are goiters different from nodules? So goiter is very different in terms of goiter, really the whole thyroid is very enlarged. If you've seen a lot of women in West African countries like Nigeria, for example, they have huge, big necks here, humongous swollen necks, right? And that is often due to low iodine levels. Those countries are known to be very low in iodine, and so that's what can cause the growth of goiter. The other reason why people have goiter is because it's just generally a huge inflammation and a lot of toxicity in the thyroid. So it doesn't get concentrated in a nodule, but it's just the whole thyroid gets swollen. And I had that as well. One of the ways I've discovered it is I used to wear a choker. I used to have like a whole series of chokers. And now I had one that was favorite, and I always knew where I would close it, at which button I would close it. And when I really got sick, I started noticing that choker started feeling really tight on me. I was just like, oh. And that's when I realized my thyroid was beginning to really swell up. So goiter is just like a real big manifestation of that. Rita is asking, what supplements should I take? The first thing you do is you change your diet. Go on a very anti-inflammatory diet. Follow the recipes that we have here in the book. And there is no real supplements for thyroid nodules. The only thing you can do is so those of you who answer that estrogen dominance is the leading cause of thyroid nodules is correct. So there is, we have something called the Estrogen Reset Kit in our store. Taylor, if you can post the link to our Estrogen Reset Kit. It contains DIM, sulforaphane, and calcium diglycerate. And so it's a complete estrogen detoxification process because you're gonna take care of liver phase 1 detoxification, phase 2 liver detoxification. And so DIM works really great for detoxifying you from estrogen on phase 1. But then you also need phase 2 support. And that's where sulforaphane and calcium diglycerate come in to help you on phase 2. So those are the supplements that helps a lot with estrogen dominance. But I feel like they work a lot better when you combine it with your diet. However, cruciferous vegetables, should you eat or not? Yeah, Patty, so I did talk about it in last video, so I'm not gonna go into much detail, but the answer is yes, you can. And one thing I will say is please don't put 2 bunches of kale every day in your smoothie and then do a healthy eating thing, because that's, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. I've met women before who literally were drinking raw kale smoothies every day. That's kind of gross. I actually don't like kale, believe it or not. It's healthy and I eat it, but I'll combine it with stuff and, and flavor it. But anyway, so kale smoothies, and then they were convinced that caused their low thyroid function. So, excessive soy, for example, certain goitrogens, they do impact your thyroid function. But when it comes to cruciferous vegetables, you really need to have huge amounts to make any impact on the thyroid. And in fact, cruciferous vegetables are the healthiest vegetables out there in terms of density, nutritional density. They work a lot on the liver, right? So you're supporting the liver as well. And so they're all around really great. And it's a myth that was copied from blogger to blogger about cruciferous vegetables killing your thyroid. It just drives me crazy because it doesn't serve women at all. And also, Patty, just to let you know, I've been doing this for over a decade, and I have never ever met a woman who would have gotten off all cruciferous vegetables, stopped all the kale, stopped all the crucifers, right? And suddenly could declare, I've cured my thyroid. My thyroid is finally okay. Not a single person. I can tell you that. Dee is saying, I was just diagnosed with Hashimoto's and I can feel something in my throat, but the endo wants to wait for 6 months. Should I demand a scan? Yes, I think you should, and go into a different doctor. I find if you're telling the doctor you're feeling something in your throat, which is a one-on-one symptom of thyroid issues, swelling of the thyroid, potentially a nodule, and this person asking you to wait for 6 months, just find another doctor and they will do that for you. Alexandra is asking, is dry skin on legs very scratchy symptoms of hypo? Great question. Yes, it can be. Absolutely. It can be one of that, not the most common one, but yes, it can be. Will this work if I'm in menopause? Yes, absolutely. So most of the hormones balance community is actually women who are in perimenopause, like yours truly here. And a lot of women who are 45 to 65 is our audience. So I wrote this book for this audience. Let me turn this around. I wrote the estrogen dominance book for our audience. And so all of those things have been considered as part of menopause. And by the way, you can be in menopause and have estrogen dominance as well. And I did talk about it on the first day on the videos, if you are curious about that. Alexandra is asking, what do you think about Lugol iodine? That's a great question. So here is the paradox of all of this, right? Is that on one hand, the thyroid really depends on iodine to function properly. So iodine gets into the cell. That's how thyroid hormone is being produced, right? And so technically, you would have that's why, remember I said women in West Africa having these goiter problems, severe iodine deficiency causes a low thyroid function, right? So that's absolutely correct. You need iodine. Here's the paradox of all of this is that you need sufficient amount for the thyroid to produce it, but taking it additionally, and especially when you have Hashimoto's disease, so hear me out, especially for those of you who have Hashimoto's disease, please check your supplements, especially your multivitamins, and make sure there's no added iodine to this. So there's a number of studies that show that iodine added to, when added to patients with Hashimoto's disease, it really sends their antibodies up skyrocketing. And I have worked with a number of women in the past who were told to take iodine when they had Hashimoto's. And I remember one case was really severe. She was in bed for 3 months. She couldn't get up. That's how bad it became. So you got to be really careful if you want to be adding iodine because you feel like you're low. It's about, by the way, you guys, iodine can be found in a lot of foods. If you're eating things like seaweed, occasionally seafood, fish doesn't have actually much iodine, interestingly. Seafood does. Then you are actually eggs, for example, if you can tolerate eggs, egg yolk has quite a lot of iodine in it. So you're actually getting quite a bit of iodine from just general food. If you are thinking about, if you've been tested and you know you're low in iodine, there is a urine challenge test for that. Then consider taking iodine, but you gotta make sure that your antibodies for Hashimoto's are below 100, and you do it in very slow doses and very slowly tapering up before really going on a full dose and whatever you're planning to do. So be really, really careful. And I will also say with iodine that I have seen women who have taken iodine because they were diagnosed with hyperthyroidism, and it swung them to the other side of being very hyper. So there is also that consideration. My good colleague, Dr. Alan Christensen, has just released a book called the Thyroid Reset Diet. And it's actually, the whole book is based on getting people off iodine and how limited iodine for a period of time can actually heal the thyroid. It's a pretty interesting approach. And everything that I'm telling you is the same thing that Dr. Isabella Wentz also is on the same thought on that. In fact, she, you find, for example, all her supplements are without any iodine in it. Okay, what other questions do we have? What are your thoughts on selenium supplements? I started a few months ago and I feel much better, especially my energy levels. Absolutely. So selenium is wonderful, Gabriella, in reducing your TPO antibodies. So especially if combined with vitamin E, there's a number of studies that show a significant drop in antibodies. So that's probably why you're feeling better. So that's great. Yeah. Paula is saying, I have Hashimoto's for 20 years. Past 2 years, I've been perimenopausal and my TSH has dropped twice to a hyperthyroid state. Could this be due to estrogen dominance? I think I've been developing nodules recently as well. So you know how if you were here for the reading part, I was talking about the hot nodules, that they can be producing a lot of additional thyroid hormones. So they absolutely can be. Paula, I'm also curious, like how high are your antibodies? It's something to really manage your Hashimoto's disease. For those of you who have Hashimoto's, the management of Hashimoto's really should be done through measuring your antibodies, just to see how active is your immune system attacking the thyroid, right? And you want it to be below 100, and that will be considered to be in remission. So that could be a good start. Could this be due to, look, let me just actually explain, because the one thing I don't think I've done a very good job explaining why estrogen dominance can cause low thyroid function. So the reason is that when your estrogen is high, especially dirty estrogens are high, what happens is they bind up thyroid hormone, okay? There is such a thing as thyroid binding globulin, and when estrogen is high, that thyroid binding gluten, also known as TBG, also goes up. And that's what binds up the thyroid hormone. And so your thyroid might be producing sufficient number of hormones or thyroid hormone, but when your estrogen is high, it binds up that thyroid hormone, making it less of it available for your receptors. And as you heard me read about this here, you have thyroid receptors pretty much everywhere around your body, right? Brain, skin, eyes, hair, right? Your digestive system. That's why constipation is so common with thyroid patients, right? So reversing estrogen dominance would not only get rid of your thyroid nodules, but it would generally just really release and make a lot more thyroid hormone available for your body to utilize. One interesting thing also is for those of you who are on thyroid replacement medications, like you're on Synthroid or some other more natural options, is the same story. When you have estrogen dominance, even though you're taking something like a thyroid replacement therapy, that estrogen, excess estrogen, is going to be binding up that hormone, making less of it available for your body. And the crazy thing is that when you go and see an endocrinologist and you're like, hey doc, I'm still not feeling good, my energy is still really low, and what do I do? And they just put you on higher doses, and you go up and up and up and up. And after a while, you just feel crammy, you feel awful, but you don't get any more energy. You're not feeling any better. So estrogen dominance could be one of the causes why this is happening. The other causes could be your digestion is not very efficient, your liver is not converting that thyroid medication to T3, which is the bioavailable working horse of a thyroid for you. So again, can you see how like everything that I'm saying, right? It's kind of like goes back to the foundation, like the way I had to inspect the foundation of my house to make sure I'm not buying a house that's going to slide down the mountain, right? It's like, it's your liver, it's your gut, and it's your blood sugar balance. Can you still do this detox while being on medication for the thyroid? What detox are we talking about? I'm not sure what the question is. Which detox is Patty? So let's wait for Patty to answer that question, and then let's come to, let's get another question. Lydia is saying, what does it say if you've been on high doses of iodine, 550 milligrams daily for over a year, but my antibodies have only gone up insignificantly from 20 to 80? I have Hashimoto's and started feeling better after starting the iodine. Yeah, so it could be. So there is a group of people who, like, especially if you're taking vitamin A and vitamin E, I'm curious, and vitamin D3, I wonder whether you want those as well. There are some practitioners who believe that when you dose iodine with those anti-inflammatory and antioxidant combined with that, then that's going to help Hashimoto's. It's a little bit of a roulette, and I think, Lydia, it goes back to the belief that the fact that we all are a little bit different. So the studies that all of us reference in functional medicine show that higher iodine can really throw your Hashimoto's out of control. Yours has gone up. We might say slightly from 20 to 80, but also if you look at it another way, it's like the antibodies have gone up 4 times, right? So that's not great either. Yeah, I don't know whether the discussion here should really be about iodine. I think the discussion here really should be on, thinking about the fact that Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease. And so when you have Hashimoto's, actually, you don't have a thyroid problem. You have an immune problem. I hope that it's clear to everybody. And hence your focus should really be on restoring your immune system and calming it down, and not to be tinkering around with your thyroid alone. So support the thyroid by supporting your immune system, because really your thyroid is the second stop on the bus route. Your first stop is going to be helping your immune system, and you can do that through lowering inflammation, do the elimination diet, reduce all the inflammatory foods, right? Incorporating all the great foods that heal your gut, right? Like bone broths and prebiotics and probiotics in food form and supplemental form. Those are all great ways that you can restore your gut. I want to give you an example of how food intolerance can really bring your immune system down. So I worked on a Fortune 100 client in China. This was back in the day when I was working in advertising. And this was in China. So the client had somehow this idea that, first of all, they flew us out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Which is pretty smart move. We were doing yearly planning with them. So they brought all the advertising agencies together. So back in the day when I was working in advertising, and they brought all of us together But they were pretty smart about it. Instead of like creating the meeting in like some fun place like Tokyo or Beijing or something, they were just afraid that we were all gonna go out at night and have too much fun and get drunk and not be as effective. So they basically flew us out in the middle of China. There was absolutely nothing else to do. So that we were working they worked as like 12-hour days. Even dinner, we were still having breakout sessions and planning sessions and stuff like that. And somehow the other idea they had was that they wanted to serve us Western food. I would much have rather eaten Chinese food, but they had this idea that since most of the advertising agency executives are foreigners, so we should be serving them Western food. So basically what it looked like was for breakfast, all you had was toast, right? And all sorts of like pancakes and stuff like that, stuff that I never eat. And it's all wheat, gluten, and yogurt, right? There wasn't even like oatmeal, right? It was all wheat. And then for lunch, they will serve us sandwiches, right, of sorts. So again, I was just like taking the bread off and just getting the inside of the sandwich out. And then for dinner, they have like pasta and even and pizza and even more junky gluten food, right? And so this went on for 4 days, and at the end of it, I was so sick, and it wasn't like my digestion was sick or whatever. I just came down with this horrendous flu, and I was sick for like almost 2 weeks. And so, it's just, and I hardly ever actually get sick. So this was a really, like, I'll never forget this, how just eating inflammatory foods, what a dive your immune system can really take when it's so inflamed, it's so compromised, and just any antigen, you're basically like catching it. And it almost feels like, when your immune system is low, like with Hashimoto's, it's a bit like walking out on a cold night, stormy night with no clothes on. You know what I mean? Like, you're so vulnerable to getting anything. And there's the same thing. If you're eating inflammatory foods, you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you're depending on coffee, right? You're super stressed out, you're not sleeping very well. It is literally, see yourself as walking out in the middle of the night with no clothes on and expect not to get sick, right? So more questions. What else do we have? We'll do a couple of more questions, and then we can call it a wrap. Winnie's saying, I've been feeling like there is something in my throat for at least 3 months, sometimes worse than others. I recently also started experiencing very rapid heartbeat. Can there be a connection? Yeah, so Winnie, like what I said in my initial reading, I'm not sure if you were here, is that if you have a hot spot on the thyroid nodule, then that hot spot actually releases a lot more thyroid hormone. And so hot nodules can often lead to hyperthyroidism. So the best thing for you to do is to schedule an appointment with a doctor who's willing to do an ultrasound or a sonogram with you, and just get that, just see what's going on. The other thing is, if you're having rapid heartbeat, is to do a simple test of your thyroid hormones as well. Do we have anything else, Taylor? Looks like no. Okay. Hey, you guys, it was fun to have you here today. I love to talk about thyroid because that's really what kind of, made me do what I'm doing here. Otherwise, I'll be like this executive. I used to do strategic planning for ad agency that was servicing all the Fortune 100 brands in China or in Asia. And I'll probably be like this unhappy, very sickly, depressed, overweight, not sleeping, stressed out, very moody individual. And so I'm really grateful that it was hell to be diagnosed, and was hell to first realize that there was nothing that was available for me to really tap into. But now, looking from a perspective of time, I'm actually really grateful for Hashimoto's. And so maybe one of the things I would love to close up with today is, reflect maybe on this thought a little bit. In some way, is there maybe an opportunity to see your current imbalance, whatever you might be experiencing, whether you're having thyroid nodules, you're having hyperthyroidism, Hashimoto's, you just have plain straight up estrogen dominance. Is there something to be grateful for? And is it something that this disease is maybe teaching you? It could be a great teacher if you're listening. And that's something that may be good that could come out of that. Maybe a clean lifestyle, maybe some changes. Yeah. All right, I will end for today, and tomorrow we're going to be talking about hot flashes, you guys, with one of my favorite people on this planet, Dr. Anna Kabaka, OBGYN, and the diet changes, supporting your vulva, hot flashes, all that really good stuff. All right, thanks everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.